An unexpected alliance. The icy winds of Frostia howled across the barren plains, kicking up swirls of powdery snow. In the distance, the angular silhouettes of the Zorgan encampment stood out starkly against the pale horizon. Commander Zaxxon Cruel, leader of the 7th Zorgan Expeditionary Force, surveyed the alien landscape through narrowed eyes, his breath fogging the inside of his helmet. 3 rotations ago, Intel had reported this sector was ripe for colonization. Rich valorium deposits, minimal native threats, and an abundance of frozen water just below the surface. But that was before the humans arrived. Now, the damnable Deathworlders had entrenched themselves on the opposite ridge, their ramshackle settlement a blight on the pristine ice fields. Zaxxon had strict orders to secure the planet and begin resource extraction by the next star cycle. If that meant forcibly removing the human interlopers, then so be it. He was about to order his troops to advance when a message from the human encampment crackled over the comms. Commander Zaxxon, this is Captain Ava Summers of the ICS Fortitude. We've been monitoring this planet's weather patterns and have urgent news. A massive winter storm is approaching, far larger than anything we've ever seen. Our projections show neither of our settlements will survive exposure. We propose a temporary truce to pool our resources and ride out the storm together. Zaxxon's mandibles clicked in irritation. Work with the Deathworlders. The notion was absurd. And yet, the humans had already demonstrated an uncanny ability to survive in this harsh environment. Perhaps there was wisdom in heeding their warning. At least until the storm passed. Captain Summers, Zaxxon growled into the comm. I will agree to your truce, but only until the weather event has concluded. Make no mistake, once it's over, you and your kind will vacate this planet or face annihilation. Understood, Commander, came the solemn reply. We'll begin preparations and dispatch a delegation to coordinate our efforts. Summers out. As the channel closed, Zaxxon turned to his subordinates. Make ready the base, and keep a close eye on our new allies. I don't trust them for a moment. Little did Zaxxon know that this unexpected partnership would soon challenge everything he thought he knew about the strength and spirit of humanity. On frigid Frostia, a storm was coming, but an even greater change was brewing in the hearts and minds of human and Zorgan alike. Preparations and revelations. Over the next several rotations, the human and Zorgan camps bustled with activity as both sides raced to fortify their shelters against the impending storm. Ava worked closely with her Zorgan counterpart, a stern-faced warrior named Koltok, to coordinate the efforts. As they labored side by side, reinforcing walls and sealing gaps, an uneasy rapport began to form. I must admit, Captain Summers, I am surprised by your species' resilience, Koltok remarked as he watched a team of humans effortlessly hauling massive synthesized beams through the snow. Frostia's cold is deadly to most races, yet you seem to thrive in it. Ava laughed, her breath pluming in the chill air. We're a hardy bunch, Lieutenant. Earth has an incredible diversity of environments, from scorching deserts to frozen tundras. We've evolved to adapt to almost anything. Koltok nodded thoughtfully. Like many Zorgans, he'd always assumed humans were weak, their homeworld a paradise of plenty that bred softness. But seeing them in action here, working tirelessly in conditions that would fell lesser beings, he began to question those long-held beliefs. As the storm preparations continued, more and more Zorgans found themselves reevaluating their views on humanity. Private Zalek marveled at the efficiency of the humans' hydroponic grow domes, their ability to coax life from the barren ice. Sergeant Vaxa was impressed by the ingenuity of their modular shelter designs, easily reconfigured to withstand the howling winds. And Commander Zaxxon himself couldn't help but admire Captain Summers' unwavering leadership and calm in the face of the looming threat. Though he'd never admit it aloud, a grudging respect for the human leader took root in his hearts. But even as bridges of understanding began to form between the two groups, the great storm grew ever closer. Ominous gray clouds massed on the horizon, and the winds took on a keening edge. Whatever revelations Frostja's strange partnership on Earth would soon be put to the ultimate test. As the first fat flakes of snow began to fall, Ava and Zaxxon shook hands, sealing their alliance against the coming maelstrom. "Here's to riding out this storm together," Ava said, meeting the alien commander's inscrutable gaze. Zaxxon simply nodded, his crest flaring in the Zorgan sign of assent. "Indeed, Captain. May your Deathworld strength serve us well in the trials ahead." And with that, the two leaders turned to face the howling storm as one, their differences set aside in the name of survival on an unforgiving world. The storm hits. When the storm finally struck, it did so with a ferocity that even the most seasoned human colonists had never witnessed. Gale force winds scored the icy plains, whipping the snow into a blinding frenzy. Temperatures plummeted to lethal lows as Frostja's merciless climate unleashed its full fury. Inside the reinforced shelters, humans and Zorgans huddled together for warmth, their breath frosting in the air. The modular units groaned and shuddered under the onslaught, but thanks to the joint efforts of both engineering teams, they held fast against the tempest. Captain Ava Summers moved from shelter to shelter, checking on her people and their Zorgan allies. Despite the dire circumstances, morale remained high. The humans' indomitable spirit shone through as they told jokes, shared stories, and buoyed each other's resolve. To Ava's surprise, even some of the typically stoic Zorgans joined in the camaraderie, their hissing laughter mingling with the human voices. But the storm's wrath was unrelenting. As the long hours dragged on, the winds only intensified, shrieking like damned souls. The struts of the Zorgan shelters, built for milder climes, began to buckle under the mounting snowdrifts. Ava and her team raced to shore up the failing structures with jury-rigged supports, but it was a losing battle. Disaster struck when a massive gust tore the roof from one of the Zorgan barracks. In seconds, the unit was buried under tons of snow and debris, its occupants trapped inside. Frantic radio calls crackled over the comms as the trapped soldiers cried out for help. Commander Zaxxon, monitoring the situation from the command center, slammed a fist against the console. "Blast this frozen hellscape," he snarled. "I've already lost too many good warriors to this cursed world." Eva placed a calming hand on the Zorgan leader's arm. "We'll get them out, Zaxxon. My people are already suiting up for a rescue mission." Zaxxon's eyes widened in disbelief. "You can't be serious. In this storm, you'll be dead in minutes." But Ava's resolve was unshakable. "We don't leave anyone behind, Commander. Not human, not Zorgan, not anyone. That's not our way." As the howling winds battered the command center, Ava gathered her rescue team. Armed with thermal gear, salvage equipment, and sheer human tenacity, they prepared to brave Frostja's deadliest elements to save their erstwhile foes. The storm raged on, but the humans of the ICS Fortitude stood ready to face it head-on. In the heart of that frozen wasteland, the indomitable human spirit burned bright, a beacon of hope and resilience against the darkness. Humans to the rescue. The wind screamed through the canyons of ice as Ava and her rescue team trudged through the blizzard. Visibility was near zero, the snow a relentless wall of white that stung any exposed skin like needles. But Ava's suit HUD cut through the interference, painting a clear path towards the collapsed Zorgan shelter. "I got life signs, Captain," shouted Corporal Jensen over the comm. "They're weak, but they're there. The Zorgans are still alive." "Not for much longer in this cold," Ava replied grimly. "Double time it, people. We're going to have to dig them out." The team pushed forward, their thermal gear straining against the brutal chill. At the collapse site, they found a twisted mound of metal and composite, half buried in the drifts. Ava's heart clenched at the sight. The Zorgans within didn't have long. "Krasinski, Hawking, get the plasma cutters ready," she barked. "Melfi, Stadjon, start shifting that debris. I want a clear path to the entry hatch, on the double." The humans leaped into action, their movements precise and efficient despite the howling storm. Plasma torches flared to life, slicing through the wreckage like butter. Strong arms heaved aside jagged hunks of metal and plascrete, tossing them into the screaming winds. Minute by harrowing minute, they cut a path to the trapped Zorgans. When they finally breached the unit's crumpled hatch, Ava was the first one through. Inside, a scene of devastation greeted her. Wounded Zorgans lay everywhere, their green blood frozen in icicles across shattered exoskeletons. But they were alive, stirring weakly as the humans swarmed in. "You came," croaked one soldier, his compound eyes flickering in disbelief. "I thought we were lost." Iva crouched beside him, unsealing an emergency heat pack. "Not today, my friend. We're getting you out of here." One by one, the humans carried the survivors out into the storm, their augmented strength making light of the Zorgans' bulky frames. They fashioned stretchers from the wreckage, lashing the wounded in place with salvaged cabling. Through it all, the winds howled and Frostia raged, but the humans never wavered. Commander Zaxxon watched in awe as Ava and her team staggered back into the command center, their armor caked with ice, the rescued Zorgans in tow. Exhausted but victorious, the humans grinned as Midst swarmed in to tend to the wounded. "I've never seen anything like that," Zaxxon whispered to Ava. "You could have died out there. Why risk so much for us?" Ava met his gaze, her eyes blazing with conviction. "Because that's what humans do, Zaxxon. We help those in need, no matter the cost. It's in our nature." As the Metsts worked and the storm continued to scream outside, Zaxxon felt a profound shift within himself. These humans, these Deathworlders he once considered weak, there was a strength to them he had never imagined. A strength not of weapons or ships, but of spirit. And on that day, in the heart of Frostia's deadliest blizzard, a Zorgan commander began to understand the true power of humanity. Secrets of human endurance. In the storm's aftermath, an eerie calm settled over the shattered encampment. Humans and Zorgans alike emerged from their battered shelters to survey the damage, marveling at the glittering dunes of snow that had remade their world. Commander Zaxxon found Captain Ava Summers standing at the edge of the human compound, her gaze distant as she watched her people work to clear the drifts. The Zorgan leader hesitated, then approached, his clawed feet crunching in the fresh powder. "Captain Summers," he rumbled, "I wanted to thank you again for what your team did. Those soldiers would be dead if not for you." Ava turned, offering a tired smile. "We were just doing our duty, Commander. I'm glad we got to them in time." Zaxxon shook his head, his crest rippling in agitation. "It's more than that. I've seen trained Zorgan warriors falter in conditions half as severe as that storm. But your people never hesitated. They just kept going. Like the cold couldn't touch them." Ava chuckled. "Oh, it touched us all right. Frostbite's a nasty customer, even for humans, but we've learned to push past it, to keep moving forward even when our bodies scream to stop." Zaxxon's eyes narrowed. "That endurance, is it biological? Some quirk of your evolutionary past?" "In part," Ava allowed. "Our ancestors faced some pretty brutal environments on Earth. Endless deserts, frozen wastes, that sort of thing. The tough ones adapted and survived. But it's more than just biology." She turned to face the commander fully, her expression thoughtful. "It's our mindset, Zaxxon. Our refusal to give up, no matter how bad things get. We have a saying on Earth, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. It means that true strength emerges in adversity, that the hardest challenges forge the strongest spirits." Zaxxon was silent for a long moment, absorbing her words. All around them, humans and Zorgans labored side by side to restore their battered camp. Corporal Jensen joking with a Zorgan engineer as they repaired a generator. Private Grzinski patiently teaching a group of Zorgan soldiers how to purge their exosuits of ice. The easy camaraderie was a far cry from the tense standoff of just days before. "Your species never ceases to amaze me, Captain," Zaxxon said at last. "Perhaps there is more to humanity than I gave credit for." Ava grinned, clapping the Zorgan leader on his armored shoulder. Stick around, Commander. We're full of surprises. As the unlikely allies work to rebuild their shattered compound, a new understanding blossomed between them. Frostja's deadly blizzard had scored away old prejudices and misconceptions, leaving in its wake a fragile but genuine connection. The storm had tested them all to their limits, but in the crucible of that frozen hell, something remarkable had been forged. A bond of respect, of shared hardship overcome. And as Frostja's weak sun glinted off the endless expanse of snow, it seemed to those who had endured that perhaps anything was possible after all. The thaw days turned to weeks as Frostja slowly emerged from the blizzard's icy grip. Temperatures rose, and the merciless winds died to a whisper, leaving a landscape transformed. Glittering dunes gave way to slush, then to patches of dark earth as the permafrost began to thaw. In the human and Zorgan camps, life assumed a new normal. Engineering teams worked round the clock to repair damaged structures and vehicles, while scouting parties ventured out to map the changed terrain. But even as they fell back into familiar routines, the bond forged in the crucible of the storm endured. Ava found Zaxxon on the ridge overlooking the camp, his gaze distant as he surveyed the bustling activity below. "Penny for your thoughts, Commander," she asked, coming to stand beside him. Zaxxon glanced at her, his mandibles twitching in the Zorgan approximation of a smile. "I was just reflecting on how much has changed since we first set foot on this frozen rock. When I arrived, I saw your people as little more than an obstacle to be removed. But now—" He trailed off, his gaze returning to the camp. Human and Zorgan alike moved among the buildings, their easy interactions a stark contrast to the tense standoffs of before. "Now you see us as allies," Ava finished for him. "Partners, even." Zaxxon nodded slowly. "More than that, I see you as friends. Your courage and selflessness in the face of that storm, your unwavering dedication to your crew and to mine. It humbled me, Captain. It made me realize how much we Zorgans have to learn from humanity." Ava laid a hand on his armored forearm, a gesture of comradeship that would have been unthinkable just a few short weeks ago. "The feeling's mutual, Zaxxon. Your people's resilience and adaptability are truly remarkable. I think humans and Zorgans could accomplish great things together if given the chance." The commander was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with regret. "If only our leaders could see what we have seen here. But I fear our peoples are not ready to set aside their differences." Ava sighed, her breath misting in the chill air. "Maybe not, but we've made a start, Zaxxon. What happened here, the bonds we forged, that's the seed of something greater. Whether it takes a year or 1,000 years, I believe our species will find their way to peace." Zaxxon turned to face her fully, his compound eyes glinting with a new respect. "With humans like you leading the way, Captain, I believe it too." The moment stretched between them, a fragile understanding crystallizing in the crisp Frostjan air. Then Zaxxon straightened, his bearing formal once more. "My troops will be ready to depart by nightfall. I wish you well, Captain Ava Summers. May your journey be safe and your discoveries groundbreaking." Ava smiled, sketching a salute. "Same to you, Commander Zaxxon Cruel. Until we meet again, in happier times." The two leaders parted ways, their forces preparing to set out for their respective corners of the galaxy. But even as they packed up their gear and plotted their hyperspace jumps, each carried with them the memory of Frostja, a reminder of the day when two disparate species came together in the face of annihilation and found within each other an unexpected strength. And though the galaxy would remain divided, though wars would rage and hatreds fester, the story of Frostja endured. A tale of adversity and resilience, a friendship forged in the deadliest of crucibles, a story of the indomitable human spirit. And the day it changed a Zorgan's heart forever. The end.